So the first two kits we're going to do for August is the white rose kit and the white rose scalloped planter kit. So in these beautiful kits, you'll get your white roses, which are actually for outdoors and indoors. So they are absolutely fine indoors. If they're in a nice sunny spot, you can keep deadheading once they go over, and then more buds will bloom. And then of course you can keep them in the garden. But again, they just like a nice sort of sunny position, lots of sunlight, and you'll do really well with them. So the kits come in a scalloped planter. Again, I'm not going to bore you because you all know probably by now, it's one of my favourites. It's just a versatile pot that you can use for so many things. This is my personal one that I keep here in the studio, and it is battered and has been used so many times, but in my opinion, it just becomes more beautiful. The marks around here are just because I had some herbs in it, excuse me, that I took out this morning and put in something else. So it's just got the watermarks here, so those will fade. It's purely just from the soil of the herbs. But yeah, this is what it looks like after, I don't know, a year maybe. So yeah, I just think they just get more beautiful. So that will be the planter, and then we have the Helena 12 centimetre pot, which has this lovely kind of more delicate scallop detail around the rim, and the saucer to go with it. And again, I think I had something in that as well, and that's got a watermark there, but again that will fade, and then it all just becomes this kind of gorgeous deep terracotta colour. Okay, so let's start planting. We'll start with the planter. So take your pot, and then once you've given your roses a drink, as soon as the box arrives, ideally, at least on that day, you need to add in your gravel. So just add in all the gravel that's in your kit. It's all measured, so it's the right amount. And then add in a sort of delicate layer of compost on top of the gravel. So maybe sort of 2 handfuls will be fine. Let's move this one out of the way. And then you're going to start with your roses. So once you've watered them, as I said, you take them out of the pot, and then you're going to plant them into the planter at a slight angle. So instead of sort of popping it like that, and then the roses are all really upright, if you plant at a slight angle, so just sort of like this, move back, it sits so much more beautifully and just looks a lot more relaxed and a lot more natural. But they will hopefully stay in position once they're all in. They're a gorgeous kind of, they're called Amore, this variety. Sorry, excuse my scratchy voice. And they are sort of shaped more like a garden rose than a sort of normal standard rose, which just makes them even more beautiful. So they are really kind of heavily petaled with lots of layers. Yeah, they are beautiful white rose. Excuse me. Okay, and then in the 3 gaps that you'll have after you've popped your rose plants in at an angle, you then go in with more compost to fill in the gaps. So just quite simply filling those holes with more compost that's in your kit. And then gently sort of compressing it down. Sorry, so there's not too many sort of big air pockets in there. And then you might, if you gently sort of move the roses around, you might, oh no, actually I don't. So you might have a gap in the middle. I personally don't here, so I don't need to add in any more compost into the middle of the pot. So once those are planted, you can now add in your moss. So in your kits this month, you will have two different types of moss. You will have the flat moss, which is this sort of carpet kind of variety here. And then you will have your bun moss, which is a sort of pillowy kind of variety there. So quite simply, just add in your moss around the edges, gently lift up the leaves of the roses and then pop the moss underneath. Now this is kind of, you know, mainly for aesthetics because it just finishes the potting off really, really nicely. Adds another texture, another layer to your potting. I sort of change. Usually, you know, most of the time I love the bun moss, that's definitely my favourite, and then at the moment I'm really much more into the flat moss. So yeah, if you just want to use one of the types of moss, you can. There should be plenty. For the bun moss, I have taken off the back of the root structure, purely because the compost isn't too low down in the pot. So I've just taken off that kind of brown kind of root structure at the back, just sort of snapped it off, and then I'll add it in. Okay, and that's it. So that is the plant potted up, and then I will talk you through the white rose kit, and then I'll also talk you through the care and how to look after them. So you have your 12cm Helena pot and its saucer. So once it's sat there on its saucer, you can add in your gravel and I would say maybe one decent sized handful of compost. Okay, and then after watering your plant, leaf off, take it out of the pot. I'm now thinking I've got too much compost in there, but let's see. Yes, I do. So I said a large handful. Let's go with a small to medium. See how you go, because you can always add in more. It is easier than taking it out. And then just simply pop your rose plant in. Now, if you gently kind of compress the soil around the edges down, that actually fits in beautifully into the pot. So now you just need to add in, I'd say just a really little kind of layer of compost around the top. So that way it's getting the nutrients from the sort of the little layer that you've put at the bottom of the pot on top of the gravel. And then when you water, it will then receive the nutrients from the compost that you've put on top of the plant. Okay. Now you'll see if you've ordered this kit, the roses are just sensational. They are so beautiful. It reminds me actually of our ranunculus kits that we did in the spring that you all loved and sold out so quick. It's very similar to that. So if you ordered one of those kits, you will love this kit. Okay, now adding in the moss. So in terms of care for your white roses, as I said, they can be kept indoors or outdoors. Crucially though, as with most things that you keep indoors, it needs to get enough sunlight. So I wouldn't be putting this in a north-facing room or northwest-facing room. I'd have it in a south-facing room on a windowsill or somewhere where it gets, you know, lots of dappled, not direct, so not really bright, sort of dappled sunlight. So yeah, a windowsill is perfect if you have a south-facing room. If not, keep it in the garden and it will do so beautifully. And then simply when the roses go over, in terms of the flowers, you cut down where you see where it meets another stem. And that way you will get more blooms. You will also find on your plants that you will have buds already, so you will be getting more blooms soon. But if you do want to deadhead, once they've gone sort of, you know, if the petals go really, really soft or they start to go brown, totally normal. Just give it a snip. Take off any leaves that go yellow. Again, not a problem, it just keeps the plant tidy and healthy. But that's about it. In terms of watering, keep the soil damp, not waterlogged. So don't be sitting your pot in a saucer full of water, because that means the roots might rot. Tip any excess water out, but give it a really good drink and keep it damp. So a lot of our other plants, especially over the summer kits and the late spring kits, a lot of them were Mediterranean plants, so they need to kind of sort of dry out a little bit before you then water again. With roses, they just like to be kept damp, you know, not soaking, but not allowing it to dry out. You will see, it will tell you if it's thirsty, because it will start to kind of droop a little bit. The petals will become sort of quite, you know, like sort of floppy. So yeah, just keep an eye on it. Just stick your finger in the soil, and if it feels dry, definitely give it a drink, but ideally keep it nice and damp. Okay, so there we have it. 2 beautiful white rose